What is a notary public? You have a document from your child's school. You are trying to sell a car. You have a financial statement. They all require a notarization. And you're like, what's a notary public? Why does my document require some type of notarization? You've got questions. Well, I've got answers. I'm Carla Stewart, owner of Superior Signature Notary Service. I am a notary public commissioned in the state of Ohio. Let's answer those questions today. A notary public is a person who is commissioned in their state to serve as a public servant. A notary public uses a trusted form of identification, such as a driver's license or a passport, to verify the identity of a person who is signing a document. They will accurately identify that person by using that identification. They serve as an impartial witness to the signing of the document. They ensure that the signer is not only aware of, but also in agreement with the contents of that document. Now, this type of public service is held to a very high standard. And the notary public must keep up with the notary laws in her state. Those laws change periodically, and the laws in each state are different. You might be wondering if a notary public can notarize outside of the state in which they are commissioned. Well, a notary is commissioned in the state in which they live, generally speaking. There are a few states who have an exception to that rule, and they can leave their state of residence to notarize a signature in a different state. You would have to look up those states. Now, I reside in Ohio, so I'm authorized to notarize while I am firmly planted in the state of Ohio. Of course, as I've mentioned before, I am a remote online notary. So while I am in the state of Ohio, I can notarize for a person who is outside of the state of Ohio, but we do so electronically. Now, let me explain the basics of notarization. Now, earlier I explained the work that a notary public does. So let's go back to that list and break it down a bit. First, it's required that the person who requires the notarization and the notary meet face to face. The notary will then get the identification from the signer and verify the signer's ID. As an impartial witness, the notary cannot benefit from the contents of those documents. So, for example, let's say my neighbor were to call me over to notarize their signature on a document. And in this document, they are leaving me their car. Well, I can't notarize their signature on that document because I benefit from the contents of that document. So what I would do is refer my neighbor to a notary public friend who can then notarize for them. Next, a notary will witness the signing of the documents. They will ensure that the signer agrees to the contents of those documents and that they're signing willingly. They're not signing under duress. They're not being forced. So let's say I go to see a notary client in a nursing home and they're surrounded by their family member. Well, I would make certain that my signer is not being forced to sign a document and that they know what they are signing. There are times when a notary public will place a signer under oath. Now, what does that mean? It means that the signer is swearing that they understand the documents, they agree with the documents, and that they are signing of their own free will. When these conditions are met, the notary will then sign the paperwork and attach their stamp to the documents. The Notary Public has received training through their state. That's through state-approved agencies and is governed by the state. Now, in the state of Ohio, that governing agency is the Secretary of State. Oftentimes, a signer will ask a notary's opinion. For example, perhaps they're asking about an interest rate. Oh, is this a great interest rate? Well, the notary is an impartial witness, so we don't have an opinion as to their interest rate. We could be doing a power of attorney, in which case the signer might ask, hey, does this language sound good here in the documents? Well, again, because the Notary Public is an impartial witness, we don't have an opinion. The person who is signing needs to make certain that they agree with everything that is in those documents when they present it before the Notary Public, who will, of course, turn around and ask, do you agree with the contents of the documents? Again, the Notary Public is an impartial witness, and this is very important. Now, can a Notary Public notarize for a family member? Well, that's a tricky one because the answer is yes, but we are serving as an impartial witness to the signing of these documents. So, for instance, if I am asked to notarize for a family member who is, such as in the case of the neighbor, leaving me something, I'm benefiting from what's in those documents. So I cannot serve as an impartial witness. And wouldn't it be a little weird to put my family member under oath? So most notaries have decided to never notarize for family members. We will always refer them to another notary who is not related. Now, here's a bit about my personal Notary Public journey. I first became commissioned in 2001 when I had a job working for a local attorney. Unfortunately, I let my commission lapse and expire after a few years. Well, then later on, many years later, I was asked to get my notary by another employer. So I did that. And then the pandemic happened, and I really wanted to make my notary commission work for me again. So I started my own notary business. I did a little research and found out that I could do even more with a notary signing agent certification. Now, something very important to remember is this. A Notary Public notarizes a signer's signature on a document. Notarizing does not make a document legal. I've said that on this channel before, but in case this is the first video you're watching, I want to make that clear because it is a very common misconception. Notarizing does not make a document legal. Remember that a notary has to make sure that the signer simply agrees with the contents of the documents. A Notary Public will simply make certain that there are no blank spaces left on those documents, that they're all filled in, and then she can notarize the signature. What's so great about being a Notary Public? Well, besides helping people, my friends and my neighbors, what is really great is that education is ongoing. So I am a member of a few notary network groups, and whether I have a question or they have a question, I'm always able to see everyone's comments and questions and responses, and I get more education this way. It's continuing education, and it's so valuable because, as I mentioned earlier, notary laws change, but there's always some unique situation that happens that we want to be aware of so that we can always be an advocate for our notary clients. Let's recap. A notary public is a person who is commissioned in their state to verify a person's identity by using their identification. We ensure that the signer is aware of and agrees to the document they're signing. We witness their signature. We notarize that signature and possibly put the signer under oath. By taking these critical steps, verifying the signer's identity, confirming that the signer understands the contents of the documents, making absolute certain that the signer agrees with the contents of the documents, and confirming that they are signing voluntarily, then the notary public is helping to prevent fraud. Do you want to work as a notary public? I'll make that the subject of an upcoming video. So make sure that you like and subscribe to this channel because you will see that soon. But before you go, please leave a comment. I would love to hear from you and like to know what you would like to know about the notary world, about notary business, or even how you can start a small business. And remember, don't sign that paper until your notary is in front of you.